I stood at the edge of the living room watching everyone arrange themselves for the photo. It was supposed to be a simple family memory, something ordinary, something repeated every year without question. Chairs were dragged slightly forward. My father stood near the center automatically, as if the space already belonged to him. My older brother moved close to his right side. My sister adjusted her scarf and stepped nearer to my mother. My son walked in last. He wore the shirt I had bought him for this occasion. He had rehearsed his small smile in the mirror. He hesitated for a moment before stepping toward the group, searching for a spot between his cousins. No one made space. My father glanced at him briefly, not with anger, with calculation, as if measuring placement. "Let's just leave the main children," my father said casually, waving his hand toward my brother and sister. The words landed slower than expected. Main children. The phrase hovered in the air like something already accepted for years, but never spoken this clearly. My son froze. His shoulders lowered slightly. He didn't cry. He didn't argue. He simply looked at me, confusion replacing expectation. I felt something tighten inside my chest, not explosive anger, not dramatic humiliation. It was recognition. Recognition of a pattern disguised as tradition. The photographer waited, camera hanging loosely from his hand. He had seen family tensions before. He shifted his weight, silently observing. My father continued positioning the main children closer to the center, as if repetition made exclusion legitimate. For a moment, I considered silence. If I stayed quiet, the photo would capture what they believed. Hierarchy preserved, approval distributed selectively. If I spoke, the moment would fracture. I walked forward instead. Slow, controlled. I stepped between my son and the empty space where he had been pushed aside. "Stop," I said quietly. Not shouting, not begging. The room noticed. My father turned toward me with mild irritation, confused that the routine had been interrupted. I didn't look at him. I looked at the photographer. "How much is the cancellation fee?" He hesitated. "Why?" "Tell me the amount." He named it. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and transferred the money on the spot. The confirmation sound echoed lightly in the silence. Then I turned to the photographer again. "Get ready." The photographer blinked, understanding arriving before anyone else reacted. My father's expression shifted from irritation to disbelief. "What are you doing?" he asked. I finally faced him. "If my son isn't considered part of the picture, then the picture doesn't represent my family." The words were not loud, they were precise. My sister inhaled sharply. My brother looked uncomfortable but said nothing. My father opened his mouth. Maybe to argue, maybe to correct, but the situation had already moved beyond debate. The photographer quietly adjusted his settings. He gestured for everyone to step back. "Let's reset," he said. But this time, something had changed. My son did not move back to the edge. He stood beside me. I placed my hand lightly on his shoulder, not dramatic, not possessive, just visible. Others looked at my father, waiting for his response. He realized control over the frame had slipped. The authority he used to define belonging, position, words, and assumptions had been interrupted by an external decision. Money had been exchanged. Time had been reset, and now the photo would reflect choice instead of obedience. My sister suddenly broke the silence. "Why are you making this such a big issue?" she shouted. Her voice cracked, not from anger, but from fear of consequences. "Because it is," I replied. Her scream had revealed something important: discomfort when privilege is questioned. The photographer captured the new arrangement. This time, the group stood differently. Not perfect, not reconciled, but rearranged. My father remained near the center, but now my son stood beside me, not excluded. There was tension in his posture. He had not apologized. He had not admitted fault, but he had witnessed resistance. After the photo was taken, no one celebrated. People dispersed quietly. Conversations shifted to safer topics. My father avoided looking directly at my son. Nothing explosive happened after. No dramatic confrontation followed. Yet the dynamic was altered. The next gathering would not start with automatic assumptions about ranking. The cost of exclusion had been paid publicly, not through revenge, not through humiliation, but through refusal. My son walked away from the room calmer than before. He understood something without me explaining it. Belonging does not depend on permission. It depends on presence, and sometimes on who is willing to protect that presence. The silence that followed felt heavier than anger. And in that silence, control no longer belonged to the person who tried to define who was main. It belonged to the one who chose who stayed in the frame.